Hello everyone, Max here with Fiction Rant to share the results of some community polling I've done on YouTube over the last couple months. That's right, I'm finally sharing the results of the Power Armor Battle Royale polls, thanks to everyone who participated. Also, for anyone who wants to support the channel, there's a coffee link in the description. Alright, first of all, let's meet the players. Included in the polls I posted were the Astartes Space Marines from Warhammer 40k, the Terran Marines from StarCraft, Spartan 2s from Halo, a generic Chozo warrior who's definitely not Samus from the Metroid series, a Brotherhood of Steel Knight from Fallout, and a mobile infantry trooper from the Starship Troopers novel, not to be confused with the mobile infantry from the movies, who are basically just dudes in football pads with rifles. Before getting into how you all voted, I'm first going to give a short summary of each contestant so we all know what's being compared. Also, after giving the verdict of the voting, I'll be giving my own opinion on where everyone should be in the rankings, because I'm a firm believer that just because a bunch of people think some way, that doesn't mean they're actually right. That last bit is really why I made this whole channel, because most of the playground matchups that we're talking about really aren't actually matchups, they're popularity contests, and popularity and power don't necessarily correlate. Alright, starting with the Astartes, what an individual Space Marine is capable of varies wildly depending on what kind they are and what is included in their equipment, but commonalities include that they are gigantic augmented humans in power armor, wielding weapons far too large and heavy for normal people. These augmentations include things like redundant organs, augmented strength, and the ability to rapidly heal. They also generally benefit from Spartan-style training, where they get raised from a young age to be elite fighters, and their entire lives are dedicated to combat. Their weaponry can vary wildly, but generally speaking, the most iconic kit includes a bolter and a chainsword, or power weapon of some kind, depending on what you're up against. In particular, chainswords are less effective against armor, so in a fight against other power-armored enemies, they'd probably just go with a power weapon which just can cut right through armor with no problem. The bolter itself is essentially a mini rocket launcher, shooting 75 caliber explosive rounds. Moving on, Terran Marines are not particularly well trained. In fact, many of them are just death row prisoners who've been given an alternative to execution. They aren't really personally augmented, but their armor does increase their strength and durability, and can even administer stimulants and painkillers if needed. The impressive part of a Terran Marine's kit, however, is their weapon. The Impaler Rifle is a Gauss-assisted weapon which fans have calculated can impart similar kinetic energy to the main gun of an A-10 Warthog, which can easily shred tanks. The Impaler Rifle can fire 30 rounds per second, so there's a lot of destruction downrange when they attack, and in fact, much of the reason that Terran Marines are in their power armor is they can actually wield such a weapon. Spartan 2s are the apex super soldiers of the UNSC from Halo. Master Chief is one of these guys. Their training involved selecting a bunch of already extraordinary 5-year-olds, kidnapping them, and immediately training them in the ways of combat and war. They are all physically augmented with strengthened bones, improved senses, and go around in Mjolnir power armor, which gives them the strength to flip tanks by hand, while making them highly resistant to small arms fire. They also have a personal shields, which recharge after a short delay, and have their combat effectiveness and awareness augmented if they can carry a AI with them. I've had plenty of discussion regarding the Spartan 2s on this channel because their depictions in the games versus the novelizations are absurdly inconsistent. On the one hand, the games show highly competent soldiers who can absorb some fire from their enemies before they have to seek cover and let their shields regenerate. On the other hand, the novels imply that even unshielded Spartans can withstand the combined small arms fire of a small army. If they get hit at all because they're fast enough to dodge bullets and combined with the power of their shields, they're essentially indestructible to anything but plot contrivance. I don't take this level of power all that seriously because if Spartans were half this durable, the Covenant elites would carry equivalent, if not more powerful shields, and would be basically unkillable themselves, and that would lead to a pretty lame fight if every duel between the Master Chief and an elite boiled down to a dragged-out ordeal where they both unload entire arsenals of firepower into one another, only to have to start over because someone ducked behind cover for a few seconds. I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of comments on this one, but I'm still happy to have that conversation. The Chozo warrior is an interesting one. On the one hand, the only real point of reference we have is Samus, who gets protagonist plot armor, which is totally unfair for a comparison like this. So, for the sake of comparison, I tried to make it clear in the polling that this is a generic warrior who happens to be in Chozo armor, not Samus. Now that we got that out of the way, onto the description. In this case, the person inside the suit isn't actually all that remarkable. Samus herself doesn't have any superpowers, at least until she was infected and cured of an X-parasite, which gave her some interesting abilities. The suit itself, though, is a marvel. It is designed to be highly modular, so over the course of any Metroid game, you'll go from not being particularly durable and only having a few missiles and a basic power beam, to incredibly durable, wielding an arsenal that would make any warrior jealous, including Doomguy. In addition, the suit can gain a few additional abilities, including turning into a morph ball and screw attack, but basically the Chozo suit ends up with a just absolute laundry list of things that it can do. For a bit of perspective on how powerful the Chozo power suit makes Samus in particular, the Metroid were a species of predatory creatures that were incredibly dangerous and extremely hard to kill, making them a threat to the whole galaxy. Samus has been dispatched alone to multiple whole infestations of them by herself on multiple occasions, and again, Samus herself isn't physically all that special, or at least she wasn't until after she had driven the Metroid extinct. The Brotherhood of Steel Knight is probably the most grounded of the power armor users on this list. The person inside the suit is perfectly normal and doesn't even have any particularly extraordinary training. That said, the suit augments strength and durability and can even come with some fun upgrades like a jetpack. Armament-wise, the Knight is just using what they can get their hands on, either issued from the Brotherhood itself or found in the wastes of the Fallout world. Most often, they'll use either a machine gun or laser rifle, though if they're willing to sacrifice some mobility, they can also use a minigun, which would normally need to be mounted on a vertibird or something like that to be functional. The very upper end of armament that any Knight can use is the iconic mini nuke launcher. This weapon is just as silly as it sounds, made even more silly by the fact that it is basically a glorified slingshot, so its maximum range is absolutely pitiful and means that even the relatively tiny blast radius of a mini nuke is far too close for comfort. Finally, the mobile infantry from Starship Troopers novels. These guys are typically armored in a Marauder suit, which gives them increased strength, allows them to do things like easily jump over buildings. Their weapons are relatively vague, but they absolutely have rifles, flamers, and a rocket launcher, which is capable of firing nuclear rockets. None of this weaponry is particularly extraordinary, aside from the nuke launcher. Their main advantage is their high mobility compared to other kinds of power armor. Alright, onto the tier list. In total, 654 votes were cast, and instead of going over all 15 matchups, I instead totaled up all the votes that each soldier got across all their matchups to give us their final ranking. So, with a total of 23 votes and winning a whopping 0 matchups, we have the Brotherhood of Steel Knight from Fallout. Honestly, I don't think anybody will be surprised by this. They're soldiers in a patched-together paramilitary force trying to do what they can in a post-nuclear apocalypse world. They're doing what they can. Next up, with 91 votes and beating nobody but the Brotherhood of Steel Knight, though going just about even with the Terran Marine, we have the mobile infantry from the Starship Troopers. Again, I'm not terribly surprised. The nuke launcher can be kind of a trump card, but at most ranges where a pair of power-armored individuals are actually fighting, that would basically be mutually assured destruction. So against the tougher opponents, the best they can really hope for is a draw. Beating the mobile infantry at 95 votes, and beating the Brotherhood of Knight and mobile infantry, we have the Terran Marine from StarCraft. I think this is pretty fair as a ranking for them. The soldiers themselves aren't all that extraordinary, their armor's just okay, but their weapon is fantastic. So in any fight against somebody who can punch comparably hard, they'll just lose due to lack of augmentation and experience. Plus, their armor just isn't that great compared to some of the others. Next up, and jumping all the way up to 143 votes, beating everyone except the Spartan 2, we have the Chozo Warrior. Here's where things get a little odd from how I'm ranking things. You'd think that if only one suit managed to beat the Chozo, that would mean they're in second place. But I'm factoring in how badly each was beaten as well by doing this total votes approach, and unfortunately the Chozo didn't win by as big of margins as elsewhere is needed to move up a slot. In second place, with 144 votes, so just one more than the Chozo Warrior, we have the Astartes Space Marine. Oddly enough, the only thing that actually beat the Astartes in all the polling was the Chozo Warrior, but again, the margins make the difference here. Finally, in first place, with a whopping 158 votes, blowing away the competition, we have the Spartan 2, which leads the pack despite losing to the Astartes Space Marine. The Spartan 2 just beat the other so handily that it skewed the result. And here's where putting in my own 2 cents happens. My sequence has the Chozo Warrior coming out on top, since even their base kit is crazy powerful and maxed out with all the upgrades from a single game. They're just absolutely insane. Second is the Astartes, because they're basically everything that a Spartan 2 is, just more so. And the weapons that a Spartan 2 carries really aren't capable of harming an Astartes. I say normal because a rocket launcher or Spartan laser isn't exactly standard kit, nor are any of the plasma weapons that the Covenant favors, which would be a lot more effective against Astartes' armor. Third is the Spartan 2, because they're still amazing, and they're the last in this list who actually get personal augmentation and intense training. Fourth is a bit of a toss-up between the Terran Marine and the Mobile Infantry. On the one hand, the Mobile Infantry is absolutely capable of way more destruction and is thus a more effective soldier. On the other hand, in a straight-up fight, the Terran Marine would absolutely shred the Mobile Infantry with their Impaler rifle, and the fight would be over real quick. Based on the overall effectiveness, though, I think I have to give number 4 to the Mobile Infantry. Number 5 is, of course, the Terran Marine, for the reasons I've already explained. And coming in last is, of course, the Brotherhood of Steel Knight, largely because they might as well be fighting with stone knives and bearskins compared to everybody else on this list. Their stuff is literally centuries out of date, and even before the bombs fell, their armor they used wasn't all that amazing compared to the rest of the list. And there you go! Let me know in the comments if you have any last-second additions to the rankings. I had a lot of fun posting and responding to the polls, and I'll have to do another set of polls for different ships and fighters or something to see what you think about all those matchups. Again, I have a coffee link in the description if you want to support the channel, and until next time, live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you.